Here's 10 underrated horror films that you might not have heard of. Starting off at number 10, we have Savageland. This is a mockumentary that uses photographs taken from an event where the entire population of a town was massacred. The film uses the framing of a true crime documentary as the lone survivor is interrogated, while the nightmarish photos he took paint a horrifying portrait of the night. Most of the bodies were never found, and those that were are found dismembered and covered in bite marks. It's a harrowing and surprisingly grounded experience, as the use of photography makes Savageland stand out from other found footage films. If that sounds interesting to you, you might like number 9, Long Pigs, another mockumentary that follows two amateur filmmakers as they document a serial killer who also happens to be a cannibalistic chef. This one has a bit of a comedic streak to it, but make no mistake, the effects are pretty gnarly. The basic plot outline might sound familiar if you've seen Behind the Mask, August Underground, or Man Bites Dog, but the way the filmmakers and the killer's relationship develops feels strikingly human.
You know, you want to surprise your victim too, right?
Next up at number 8, we have Frostbiter, Wrath of the Wendigo. This movie is fucking nuts. If you like films that are bizarre, funny, and creative as all hell, this one's for you. Heavily inspired by Evil Dead 2, it's the kind of movie that starts at 11 and only gets more insane from there. The plot, not that it really matters, kicks off when two hunters disturb the guardian of an ancient seal, killing him and breaking the circle, unleashing a gigantic Wendigo. There's stop motion effects, miniatures, chili demons, and a dinosaur attack. I highly recommend watching this one with some friends. Number 7 brings us back down to earth with Beaten to Death, an Ozploitation flick that plays out kind of like Martyrs meets Wolf Creek, featuring some really stunning cinematography to match the gruesome violence. While I feel like the flashbacks kind of take away some of the energy, it's a super original film, and one that I'm proud to see come out of the land down under, using its setting to highlight the dichotomy of the ashy grey wilderness and the brutality of human nature. If you like your scares on the more psychedelic side, number 6, Dawn Breaks Behind the Eyes, might be the one for you. Drawing from trippy 60s and 70s films, as well as European Gothic horror, it follows a couple who check into their recently inherited castle, only to find something unusual in the basement. Now, I know what you're thinking, but I promise this film is anything but predictable. At a brief 74-minute runtime, this is a wild and weird ride with some absolutely gorgeous production design. Then at number 5, we have The Incredible Melting Man, aka one of the greatest movie titles ever. After a journey to Saturn goes awry, killing 2 of the 3 astronauts, the third returns to Earth to find himself melting. Would you believe it? Released in the late 70s, this is an earlier entry in the body horror subgenre, with some really great practical effects from the legendary Rick Baker. Unfortunately, some of these effects ended up cut from the film, but what remains is still gloopy fun. Where else can you find a movie with its protagonist getting mopped into a garbage can? Love the part when he says it's melting time and melted all over those guys. For some more outer space shenanigans, we've got Feeders and Feeders 2 Sleigh Bells at number 4. I've put both of them here because I think they're best enjoyed if you watch them relatively soon one after the other, and no, I didn't make those posters in Microsoft Paint. Following an invasion of small, hungry aliens, think like Gremlins or Critters, but way further down the ladder of quality. The first film was shot on a budget of $500, and the sequel was shot on even less, with aliens that look like they're made out of ping pong balls. Sleigh Bells has a 20-minute flashback to the events of the first film with a grainy sepia filter over it, as if the events happened in the days of the Wild Wild West. These films are definitely in the so bad it's good camp, but the scrappy nature of the effects is really endearing, and I admire the Polonia bros for making them regardless of their limitations. Plus the sequel ends with Santa Claus showing up with a laser gun, so you have that to look forward to.
Maybe Santa will bring me some sanity for Christmas.
Up next is a film that's actually bad on purpose. Dude Bro Party Massacre 3, fitting right into the third spot. Created by the comedy group 5 Second Films, this is a slasher parody, as well as a love letter to the ultra cheesy horror films that were lost on VHS. Make no mistake, despite the title, this isn't a sequel to any other film, but rather a fake lost film about a serial killer called Motherface who hunts down frat bros. Dude Bro Party Massacre 3 is tons of fun, with some really neat cameos and some genuinely smart satire. Check this one out ASAP. Now for something extremely non-conventional. At number 2 is Masking Threshold. This is a dialogue-heavy film, depicting a man's Lovecraftian descent into madness as he studies the cause of his tinnitus, a high-pitched whine that only he can hear. Featuring some really gorgeous macro shots, the film surprisingly never gets boring, using its solo subject and setting to explore a cosmic world within. Masking Threshold has a filmic texture that's like running your hands through sand, only to be randomly bitten by ants. And then finally at number 1, we have Earwig, another highly experimental and surreal film. Following a young girl whose teeth are made of ice, Earwig is similar to Guillermo del Toro's films with its twisted fairy tale feeling. This definitely isn't for everyone, but it's a super original film that has a really unique atmosphere. It's less focused on narrative and more on portraying a somber mood, filled with potential allegories and interpretations. Now for some films that I left off the list because I didn't feel like they made the cut for one reason or another, but they're worth a mention anyway. First up, there's From Beyond, a sci-fi horror short that takes First Contact and turns it into First Climax. Then we have Dear God No, a grindhouse riff that plays like a Rob Zombie film with added humour. Next up is Phoenix Forgotten, a found footage UFO film revolving around the real story of the Phoenix Lights. It's got that Blair Witch authenticity, but being produced by Ridley Scott, it has the budget behind it for a really impressive final act. Last but not least is Ticks, also known as Infested. This is a super fun eco-horror about ticks that have been mutated by some weed farmers. There's loads of excellent gross effects, and it features a young Seth Green. Anyway, that's it for now. Let me know in the comments if you've seen any of these before or if you have any recommendations of your own. Happy Halloween, and I hope you enjoy some of these treats.